It's me! I'm a timekeeper! It's Loki, episode 4, the Nexus point. I'm Sparkz, and this is Ryan Eliopoulos.
I'm also a timekeeper.
And there's Brandon McClure, and his background is normal.
I'm not a timekeeper.
His clothes are normal.
No, but you might be King.
I am wearing green though.
You know,
Yeah.
Guys, dang, that's a good shirt for you.
Isn't it great?
Dang.
That's really funny.
Guys, when they announced Disney Plus Marvel shows and they announced Loki, I didn't think Loki was going to be like my top.
Yeah.
Loki's my top so far, y'all.
100%.
Loved WandaVision.
Yeah.
Enjoyed things about Falcon and Winter Soldier. Loki is just like consistently blowing me out of the water right now. And I'm like, man, I'm sitting here like, in 2 episodes, can you clear this finish line, baby? Can you just like take this all the way home? And I think they just might, folks.
Yeah.
Where I was at with Falcon and Winter Soldier about the same time, I said that if they could nail the ending, it could be my favorite. But about episode 4, I started to realize that there's no way they can make this. They can hit the landing. There's just too much that they've set up. There's just too much that they're not dealing with. It's not going to happen. But I can clearly see a path for Loki to just nail it.
It's hard for me to imagine they don't.
This is definitely my favorite episode of the series. This might be my favorite episode of all the MCU shows. Like,
mine too.
I love that first episode of Loki so much, and like I didn't think they were gonna recapture like that feel, and like this episode just went so hard. This could have been the finale of the show.
Well, that was the thing you and I were both saying as it was happening when we were watching.
When these guys show up, you're like, oh, we're here. We're here.
Yeah, because we see them tease at the beginning of the episode. I'm like, cool. We're probably going to see those guys again in the finale. Mm-hmm. And then the end of the episode, they're like, yo, we're back. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, so much happened in this episode.
It's weird to have a 6-episode series that also is like, yeah, but even we're not going to go filler. Yeah. Like we're just going. And I'm like, you were already going. You're only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And you're still just like hitting it. Like
and it just makes me think like if they went this hard on this episode, like what do we have left? Like this is crazy.
Well, the reveal a lot more than we thought.
Yeah.
The reveal at the end of this episode makes you think that there's so much more happening.
Yeah. We went on the Mephisto train hard, and that was all fun. And I'm on the Kang train. I'm on Kang Station right now. I'm on the station.
Unlike Mephisto, unlike Mephisto, I could see how Mephisto wouldn't fit into WandaVision, even when I was like, Mephisto's probably WandaVision. I don't see how Kang doesn't show up at the end of the show,
especially with this reveal this early. Yeah. Because now we don't have a big bad anymore. And it's not going to be Ravonna, who's like the main timekeeper lady. Like she's an antagonist, but she is not the main bad guy.
Right.
So like shit's got to get revealed. And I don't think it's just going to be some random person. It can't be. It can't just be some random person, because then that'd be really disappointing.
Because someone has
it's Jim.
And with how much time we have left with the show, it also can't be someone who like we're only going to spend a single episode with.
Yeah.
Like they're clearly being built up for something bigger in the MCU.
Yeah.
Which that sounds a lot to me like Kang.
Yeah.
Well, the idea is because one of the big reveals of this episode is that the timekeepers are robots. So someone has to be controlling these robots.
Yeah, I made the Wizard of Oz analogy like previous episodes, and like as soon as those doors open and it was like foggy, and I'm like, oh, this is so fake. Oh my god, this is the fakest shit ever. And then you have Big Mr. Lizard Man, and I can't understand what he's saying, and I'm like, this is so fake. I thought they were gonna be holograms, like a Snoke or something.
Right.
But the fact that they're robots is even better, because then how do you know if you're a robot? He goes back.
I love when they the one gets decapitated and the others are like,
yeah,
and then they shut down.
Very spooky, like they're in sync.
This is how episode 8 should have ended, with Snoke.
Oh god, yeah.
It should have been and you'd be like, oh no, what does it mean?
Body.
Yeah.
There is
and I still feel that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is nuts.
There is I want to speak to it. So after I watched it, I said this is my favorite episode of the show so far. If you guys remember, episode 1 didn't do a whole lot for me, but episode 2 did, and the show has slowly been getting like way better in my eyes as it goes on. But one of the things that I didn't expect. So, a little background: there's only ever been one moment in the MCU where I've ever exclaimed, outside of a woo or a yay or any sort of cheers, like a shock. I've only ever been shocked in the MCU once, and it's when Thanos snapped his fingers.
Okay, yeah.
That has happened. That has happened now twice because this episode shocked me.
Yeah,
I never could have expected for me to care this hard about Morbius.
Yes,
Mobius.
there are 3.
It's so crazy how hard that death works.
There are 3 incredibly shocking moments in this episode. 1 is Mobius.
Yes.
2 is the Timekeepers and like them being robots.
Yeah.
And 3 is Loki.
Yeah.
Loki, right before the credits roll.
Yeah.
Being erased.
Yeah.
The second I saw Loki getting pruned, I knew Owen Wilson was safe, because I know they're not killing Loki. I knew they weren't going to do that. It would be bold as hell if they would have killed Loki.
There was a moment. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend.
Yeah.
Like, there was a moment when he gets erased where I go, is this Sylvie's shows now?
That's what
like,
I wish.
Did they lie to us? Is like that shot of Loki with like the election, like vote for me Loki. Like, is that just bullshit that they filmed to throw us off?
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be the first time. And I'm like, yo, I'm about to like
see it. That's what I wish. That's what I like wanted the show to be. Cause like that would have been a super cool thing to do with the character and just have like, oh, I will be like the new Loki or whatever. But I just knew they weren't going to do it. So the second I saw him print, I'm like, okay, he's going to go somewhere. And then there was a post-credit scene, which was awesome.
But I still didn't think that the post-credits was going to be what it was either.
That's
the
true.
show's still throwing me curveballs.
Yeah. So man, there's just like so much to talk about.
There's so much.
Well,
I want
to brought it up. Oh, you do go ahead if you have something.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, because we talked on the Kang thing, I'm sure we'll talk around Kang as the person who like walked out of Avengers Endgame and said, "So who's next?" And I'm like, "Kang! It's Kang, baby! It's gotta be Kang!" I'm so happy, guys.
Yeah,
I'm so happy it's
Kang
gonna
rules.
be Kang.
And like when you think of a villain who has like the scale of a Thanos, like they're like, you can do something like a Nihilus, you can do something like a Galactus, but like it's just there's not the personality there. Kang's a dude who's nothing but personality.
It is too early to call it, obviously. I really am eager for the possibility that what we are going to see is like this entire next section of the MCU that would be like the parallel of the Thanos section will be Kang
just popping
filtered throughout,
yeah.
but it's different moments of his timeline.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to get Kang peppered throughout all the MCU going forward for like the next decade. And I'm like, please.
And I'll say one more thing before I go to you, Brandon. I just watched a video about Kang and all his incarnations, and there's literally like a dozen different Kangs.
Yeah.
There's even more than I anticipated. And it's really stupid, but it's also really fun. So like the fact that we can have a young Kang, old Kang, Egyptian Kang, Immortus, Kid Immortus, Iron Lad, all of these different characters and they're the same person. Plus the Fantastic Four are coming and he's related to them. So like, it makes me think of the future and it's really bright. It's a very bright future.
Because we talked about Mobius already, I want to bring up his death. Because that's the first time, because as I said, that's the first time the MCU has shocked me since Infinity War is ending. I did not see it coming. I did not expect it. And
it was like a Coulson for me.
Oh yeah, similar to a Coulson. Although I think I saw that one coming, but it's been so long that I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah,
it's got the same like the power of the moment.
Yes.
Though. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought they were going to talk his way around it. Owen Wilson's in the show; he's probably in the whole thing. And I thought that they were going to do a fight, and they're going to get away, and Owen Wilson's going to be fine, or whatever. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But no, it's just prune him, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And I flipped.
The moment that he was saying, like, when he looks down, he's like, you asked me where I wanted to be, and I want to be where I was taken from.
On a jet
I bet
ski.
I had a jet ski, and I'm like, he's gonna die. Yep. He's gonna die right now.
Yeah. And what I like about Ravonna, who's been slowly more and more in the show, she's like becoming more and more unhinged because like she is so dedicated to the Timekeepers, and she has to kill like her best friend. That's really that is a bummer for her too.
Is she dedicated to the Timekeepers? Because she sure as shit doesn't seem surprised to know they're robots at the end.
I think she's dedicated to maybe King.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too.
Because I noticed immediately she's like, why isn't she freaking out about these robots?
Mm-hmm.
She knows. Or maybe she's just like, yeah, she has to know, right? Why wouldn't you freak out if your gods weren't?
What's her character's name? The the girl from Lovecraft Country. What's her character's name in this?
B15.
It's a number,
B15.
so it's hard to remember.
It's B15 and C20. C20 is the one who got.
And the actor's name is Wunmi Mosaku.
Yeah.
Because I can't pronounce her name comfortably,
Yeah,
so I don't want to disrespect her. But she's the MVP of this episode.
Yeah,
I'm so glad she's in the show.
They go back to Rock's cart. Yeah. It's like
because she saw something and she's like, I saw something. You made it, so I accessed something, and she's like, that's a trick, and it's like, no, and it's like, show me.
Oh, she's like, oh, I was happy,
and I'm so glad they did that thing that I love, which is where you don't actually like need to show me whatever she's seeing. I just need to see her feeling it, and you trust the actor to do that.
And she's like crying in the rain,
and Mosaku brings that. I love her so much. I'm so happy for her.
So last week I said I thought it would be lame if the TVA was just going to show up and save Loki and Sylvie, and they did, but not in the way I expected. So I didn't hate it. I thought the save right before the apocalypse was really great. The Nexus event is them possibly falling for each other.
Yeah, the showrunners have been talking about with the idea that like if Loki were to fall for someone, it would probably have to be himself.
And like there are a lot of people who are like, oh, this is like really weird and like incesty. I'm like, I mean, kind of, but like, they're not the same person.
It's not incest, though.
It's not. It's just like, it is very narcissist.
Guys, like, if you want to go to like Norse stuff about Loki, like, this is fine.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me.
Right,
I know people are like, oh, it's like his sister. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's really just him from another timeline. Oh, don't we start this episode with her on Asgard, Sylvie on Asgard.
Oh, right, little, yeah. She's playing with little toys.
This is still like one step. Sorry, just real quick on the like Sylvie Loki possible relationship stuff. This is still one step lower than like Homelander slightly being turned on by himself in The Boys. So let's just let it be.
I mentioned last week that we talked about we're not sure if we're seeing Asgard too much or if we're seeing another Asgardian in this, but in the opening of the episode we see Asgard, and I really desperately want to know what was it that got her pruned, that got her timeline erased.
And that is what's so like awful as well, because Ravana's like, I don't even remember, because like at the end of the day it's not actually important, because like she should just be allowed to live. Like it's some bullshit thing, like, oh, she did this thing and now we have to prune her because she's not supposed to be here.
The implication of this story is that she was just born a girl and not born a man like Loki was. So the idea is that the only reason why she was pruned was because she was born, and that also sucks.
Yeah, it's right,
but like, it has to be something else at that point in time for them to have nabbed her, because
she's like,
they didn't nab her at birth.
Yeah, she's like,
no, I know, but it's what Sylvia's talking about, the idea that I was pruned because I was born, and that's what she's carried around. And I think that's really powerful motivation for her.
She has like maybe like the dopest like most tragic, awesome backstory in the Marvel history. Like she has spent her entire life growing up in like apocalypses, just avoiding the TVA, and like that is the most hardcore thing I've ever heard in the MCU.
It's the most comic book thing.
It is the most comic book thing. That's something I read in a comic. I'm like, dude, this is
that's
what
some
a character.
Rick and Morty bullshit.
Rick and Morty. Somebody who wrote Rick and Morty wrote this episode.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
I went and I spent 20 years living in apocalypse moments just to hide from.
Super cool, man.
Yeah.
Sylvie also has a different personality from Loki, because she, like, straight away, she's playing a scenario of which Asgard is saved in her toys, and she constantly tries to get people to help. Like, she's trying to ask people to help other people before she escapes. And I think that's really interesting, creating a dichotomy that she's kind of like, she started as this really kind-hearted person and then became this hardened Loki. Whereas, we don't really know what Loki was like as a kid, but we know he was still mischievous because of the story with Thor, where he turned into a snake.
Yeah. That is really interesting, actually, Brandon. Yeah. Like maybe she wasn't destined to be as bad as Loki, but because the TVA, she turned into someone like Loki.
Yeah, maybe.
Like that's kind of some like altered destiny shit. That's really cool.
And again, it goes back to what she is herself carrying internally, and it creates this really imaginative and interesting character weight for her that I'm really into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all Lokis are like dangerous and mischievous. I think all versions of Loki, but they're not. We have yet to encounter one that's truly a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yet. Yet.
Yes.
Yo, wait until that Richard E. Grant, baby.
Oh, Richard E. Grant looks ridiculous, and I love it.
Bro,
I can't believe this year that we had Paul Bettany in that stupid Vision Halloween costume in a show, and Richard E. Grant in that old ass looking Loki outfit.
There's a post credit scene, and it's 4 Lokis. People that can't forget the crocodile,
Crocodile Loki.
Jesus
Crocodile
Christ.
Loki.
But yeah, you got classic Loki. You got young Loki, who is straight from Young Avengers, the same outfit, which is fantastic. And then you got boastful Loki, who I'm not familiar with, but it looks like he might be also a Thor because he's got a hammer.
Because he's got the hammer. He might be like a blend of Loki
That
and Thor.
is sick. And then also, again, Crocodile Loki. What the hell's that about?
I mean, but the big one is that I forgot Richard E. Grant was in the show. I remember hearing about it ages ago, and it was off my mind.
We did too.
I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, is he going to play like an old version of Loki? Because that dude's like perfect for that kind of thing." And then we just forgot about it a year ago, and then that's exactly what he is.
So when his voice shows up, not yet, but you will be. I'm like, oh damn.
So, when people get pruned, do we think that they get transported to a world with other versions of themselves? Or is this a different situation? Because that's what I think it is.
You know my opinion because we talked about this, and like I think that this is the file cabinet that we joked about.
Yeah.
This is the file cabinet where they're stored in, where I said like they're not actually pruning anyone, they're not being erased, they're actually just being stored somewhere. Yeah. This is where they're stored. They're stored in these, but I do think that each one is potentially like unique to that person. So like all their variants go to one specific place.
I think
so like that this location might be full of just Loki variants.
I think because this excuse me. We see in the background Avengers Tower. So this is like a destroyed New York. I think you hypothesized, but I agree. I think this is because he's classic Loki, Richard E. Grant. This is a Loki who won on his world, and now the world's destroyed, but it all sucks, and now he's just stranded on it. And this is where they send all the Lokis. It's like, well, you won, Loki. Congratulations, you suck.
Well, the interesting question about it is that this raises, because now we know that if Loki survived being pruned or whatever, he was transported somewhere, then that probably means other variants have. The thing that becomes interesting is if their little bomb can erase an entire timeline, including the people in that timeline, why don't they just place the bomb? Why do they take variants? Why doesn't that bomb destroy the variants as well? So there's got to be a reason why they're taking these people and putting them someplace.
I think it's like a person by person basis, like like Pompeii, like those villagers, they don't need those villagers. But if there was like a special Loki there, like they would take that Loki and like send them to the magical place where the rest kind of just die.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So I kind of took it at face value at first, but I never really considered the idea that like there has to be a reason that they're taking variants. Otherwise, their bomb thing would have just erased them anyway.
Yeah. I have a feeling that the file cabinet thing is basically like the TVA is full of variants, and when something happens, they just pluck another variant and mind wipe them and put them in their place.
Potentially,
I think we're gonna go to a planet. Because I just want to think of the comics again. The TVA is run by nothing but more Mobiuses. It's hundreds of Mobiuses. So I really hope we go to a planet and it's nothing but Owen Wilsons. I really, really want that dream to be a reality. Just really bad.
Oh, you know what it is? It's just backup. Yeah, like all of them are just backups for the future of the TVA in whatever version. Let's say Kang is planning to have it like it's a constant, consistent workforce to just bring out more, put them back into work. So like if anyone's killed in the TVA, he's like, great, I replace them, and TVA lasts forever, and my timeline is perfect.
It's capitalism survives everywhere, even in the TVA.
The other thing we see is Sif. Makes her triumph return to the MCU.
Man, I love every time we talk. Like, do you think this character will show up? Like, no way, Jose. Nah, there's no Asgardians in the show. Next episode. Hey, what's up, Sif?
Sif.
What up? It's so good.
I was really happy it was Sif, not just because I really like that actress. I missed her in Ragnarok. But it's fun to kind of have her be from clearly a younger point in both their timelines, where Loki just cut off her hair, and that was the thing that happened.
A pre-Thor memory.
Yeah. I really thought that was a lot of fun. And there's every time we cut back to it, because we know he's stuck in a time loop, but every time we cut back to it, it looks like he's about to break the time loop by like apologizing and whatnot, and then it doesn't happen. He just gets kicked again.
And like instead of punching him, she reaches for his hand, picks him up, but then like knees him. Yeah.
I like the last one that she didn't knee him, but she still said the same dialogue. The one where he like gets through to her kind of,
and she's like, "You will always be alone."
Yeah, and he says like, "And I am terrified of being alone," and she like. acknowledges it, doesn't hit him, but still says the same dialogue that she has to say as a memory.
Yeah. I really like her inclusion, and the fun part about that is when that happened, she posted on Instagram that she's not going anywhere, which means she's definitely in Love and Thunder.
Well, we knew that. She actually elaborated and said that her stuff is going to go even further than Love and Thunder, which means that she's around for a while. So, yay, congrats, Jamie Alexander. It's nice to have you appear back in the MCU after all this time.
Well, I mean, obviously, because in Ragnarok, they didn't include her because they were just going to kill the Warriors 3, and they didn't want to kill her.
That wasn't the reason, though, that she wasn't in Ragnarok. She was.
She had that show. What was it? Blind Spot. Blind Spot.
Tattoos everywhere.
So it just kind of worked out serendipitously that she doesn't get killed.
Which is also the reason why she never appeared in Endgame. She makes no cameo appearance in Endgame either, because of Blind Spot, which is fine.
Schedules.
Because I imagine we would have had a brief return of her in the same way we see Tessa Thompson in Endgame, which is the new Asgard on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we would have seen Sif again.
But we get Korg and Meek.
Yes, we get Korg and Meek.
Great additions. Ain't mad about it.
There was
more Tempad stuff in this episode, and I liked it. It's like I still have that problem with the previous episode or whatever, but like I like the idea of like basically he stole her iPhone to get all of her information.
And I really like that what Loki says to him gets to him. Like he's like, there's okay, you know what? I just gotta be sure, and that's why he steals her Tempad. Is be like, I need to know. And then he realizes the truth, and it's like, okay, well, got to do something,
because he's untrusting the whole time. The implication being Mobius was always somewhat suspicious. Mm-hmm. He's too sharp. Mm-hmm. Mobius has he's had a good arc in the episodes, but this is where his whole motivation and his whole function as a character. Owen Wilson does a great job in this episode. That's what it is. The whole character's motivation and ideology is so very clear. How he feels betrayed by Loki, but he also needs to allow himself to listen. Yeah, exactly. The interrogation scene where he's like, "He let me down," kind of thing. He really did want to look at Loki as a friend. Yeah. And Loki trying to reach back, but him not wanting to trust it because it means that everything he believes in is he has to acknowledge it.
Everything you know is wrong.
Really love it. I love the moment when he comes back and gets him out of the time prison, and he says, you can be whatever you want, like a good person, just in case no one ever told you that before.
Oh, that was so good. Yeah.
And right before he gets killed in front of him, which so the thing I was going to say earlier, because we were talking about this being like a Coulson moment, man, if it comes to the last episode and Loki's like, there's somebody else you pissed off. His name was Mobius. Just like, Rex. I'll be like, nice.
That'd be so good.
Well, that would match up because this Loki's last thing we heard.
That's what he was told by Tony. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I didn't even consider that. I love
that. So what do we think is going to happen with the Loki, and Loki?
Honest to God, have no idea.
I have no idea. I have a feeling they are already on their own mission to try to get out of here when Loki arrives. And it's like, oh, another Loki to help us. Cool. We have an idea how to get out of here. Because I don't expect any of these no, it's a lie. I expect some of these characters to stay around. I don't think you introduce a young Loki with all this Young Avengers shit happening and you just prune him. So I have no idea as well.
Oh, you think he'll be added to the Young Avengers roster?
I don't think any of these. I think classic Loki might die. I don't think you need him.
I don't think you're going to keep Richard E. Grant around past this.
I think you'll keep young Loki for the future somehow.
Right.
Now I can see them keeping. I know we talked about a bit about Hiddleston, this kind of being Hiddleston's swan song potentially. How maybe we didn't know that was what this was, but it could turn into that. But I could conceivably see them keeping Loki, Hiddleston, and Kid Loki in the timeline somewhere. Kid Loki obviously being in the second Young Avengers, they could just fold that into the whatever Young Avengers they're building and have Hiddleston, Loki, and Sylvie off in the timeline somewhere.
Yeah, I mean that's like what the comics do.
I do think there's room for Hiddleston's Loki to stick around. I'm just not sure what that is, and it wouldn't surprise me if this was his way to step away.
So there's rumors, always rumors, but there will be a second season of Loki that they're talking about doing it. but until I see what the show how it ends, I have no idea what that even means. Because I love Tom Hiddleston, but like, you know, if you have a good way to end his character, there's other Lokis to explore.
Well, it is interesting because there's nothing that says, because we are existing in like if you ask me, structure out the chronology of the MCU, I would put Loki immediately after Endgame because that's what the trail you're following, and nothing here is happening in a pocket that actually relates to the main timeline's flow.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that says that the stuff in the season has to resolve in a way where like we have to pick up any of its elements immediately in the main timeline, which means that they can just revisit this at a later date. And this one more than the others, more than WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier, where they have to kind of obey what are the movies doing and work in that tandem. Loki doesn't necessarily have to until it wants to.
It's like Doctor Who. Time doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go back into the main MCU's chronology until it decides it wants to.
And who knows, like this show might like destroy that timeline in a way, or do something new to it, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
do we still think like what is going to happen at the end of this show in terms of like how the Sacred Timeline is considered, what's happening with the TVA, that is going to be part of the catalyst of multiverse stuff that's going to spill into Spider-Man, going to spill into Doctor Strange?
What if? Yeah.
What if?
I 100% I basically think that the Sacred Timeline is just, it's a road, and there's hundreds of thousands of other roads that are not being built because they don't want to. And then once they open that bridge, all those roads are just going to explode. And then all of those other multiverse things are going to
I'm going to throw out my, like, you know, I bet I know who's in the post-credits of this season. The very last episode post-credits.
Spider-Man.
I bet we see Uatu.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
I bet that it just primes up What If.
Because What If is coming next. That's the next show, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that whatever happens in this show is going to prime up What If. I'm not sure if I'm on the Spider-Man Doctor Strange thing yet, but that's more along the lines of that I found the show to be entirely unpredictable. I don't know where it's going to end, but I do think where it ends does prime up What If, and that's why we haven't seen anything for What If yet.
Yeah,
because there's so many like apparently there's supposed to be a Spider-Man trailer like yesterday or whatever. Like,
there's been a Spider-Man trailer every week for the past 3 months.
I honestly have a feeling that they might wait 2 weeks for Loki to finish.
Maybe.
Just because
I'm really curious of that too, because I'm like,
if it's a multiverse thing, that's what that movie is.
I do think like okay, we know that there's multiverse stuff. So I do think that like some amount of whatever happens here is like ripple effect event into Spider-Man, even if there's not going to be like in Spider-Man, someone's going to go, this thing happened in TVA, blah, blah, blah. Like, even if they don't explain it, you're going to go like, oh, these things are kind of in tandem at the same moment. The timeline would more or less be allowed to line up, because if you're following Loki immediately after Endgame, whatever the catalyst event is, when it spills into the main MCU, would only be a few months after the events of Endgame. Spider-Man Far From Home, No Way Home, both taking place in that kind of time period, because No Way Home's going to be really abruptly following the previous Spider-Man outing. I think that some crazy stuff will happen, but I definitely feel like at this moment, I'm leaning towards we see Uatu by the time
literally just done. like a one-shot hit going like,
What if Kang trapped Uatu?
That doesn't seem likely, because we've already seen a bunch of other Watchers in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Yeah, but not our Watcher.
Those aren't our Watchers, true. But Uatu isn't really. He doesn't really. Well, I mean, recently he's kind of just he watches. He doesn't really do anything. So I don't see a reason to capture him, because all he does is watch things. It's just his job.
I'm just spitballing.
Oh no, I get you. If like Uatu is like, oh, he comes down, he's like, oh, we can't deal with this. Then Kang shows up, like, oh, now we got so much shit happening.
It wouldn't surprise me if Uatu was like the mechanism by which for the MCU, a lot of the non-comic reading audience, Uatu, by showing up at the end of the show, is allowed to kind of be like the voice that's like, let's look at the macro of what's happening. And that's What If, but that can also, where What If ends, can also spill over into the lead into Spider-Man, to be like Uatu being like, this is going to ripple out everywhere. And that's kind of how you get your narration piece of like, that's big extrapolation. But it is nice, because I'm enjoying Loki so much. Like, if you tell me there's going to be another season, I'm totally fine with it, especially because like the rules of regular MCU stuff doesn't have to confine this show.
Just like Monsters Inc. to what's the new show, Monsters at Work?
Monsters at Work.
If like season 2 of Loki is like a new TVA and they're actually doing like good time stuff, and it's just like good like Loki hanging out the TVA, I would watch that show every single day. You kidding me? Like that sounds cool.
Now they're after variants that are abusing this.
Yeah, something like that. Sure. Just more Doctor Who Marvel.
One of the things that I found was interesting. Oh, Professor Gamble. Sorry.
One
of the things that I found interesting. I really wish he would show up in the show, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Season 2.
One of the things I find interesting is that, when WandaVision was first announced, we thought that was going to be the lead into the multiverse because her arc leads into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And we were pretty confident even watching the show that it was going to happen. And now I find it interesting that it looks like Loki is the one that introduces the multiverse and not WandaVision. I just think we were totally off in our initial speculations when these were announced.
Yeah, definitely unexpected. And it's really nice to like, because sometimes you expect things, and then it's just really nice to be totally 100% surprised.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh wow, we have like 4 different Lokis in the show right now, and like Richard E. Grant's here, and there's like an alligator. I'm like, who could have predicted that?
He looks so dumb in that costume. I love it so much,
dude. I cannot wait to hear the story of him fighting the Avengers and kicking their asses or whatever. Like, oh my god, if we see like even a second flashback of him just going like, ah, oh man, I'm so excited.
They even did the drastic horns and the.
Oh yeah,
yeah, love it.
Looks so good.
All right, I'm not sure if I have much more.
No, this stellar show. Again, if this were the finale, I'm like, oh man, like where do we go from here? Like the TVA has been like decapitated with robots. I'm like, cool. This show was great. I loved it. It was super science fiction-y. What? I got 2 more hours? Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm really curious to learn about Ravana's actual knowledge of things in the next episode, which obviously we're going to get. Maybe not immediately in the next episode. That's possible. And we might just be with Loki the whole episode.
I think the next episode will be that whole...
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible. We might not do a lot of cutting between the two, just like the episode before this one where we were just with Loki and Sylvie. We didn't cut back to the TVA.
Yeah.
But I do think that we will soon, this episode or the next, whenever it happens, I want that Sylvie confronting Ravana and being like, tell me what the heck is going on. And Ravana clearly has more information than she's ever let on before. With the way that she's positioned there. Yeah. She knows that pruning doesn't actually do what they think it does because she's not afraid to be pruned in that moment. She's like, yeah, do it. And I don't think that's I'm ready to die. That's I'll be fine.
That's a good point. Like she's a cop who knows like if she gets arrested. Yeah.
I want to say real quickly, I just thought of this, but
it really, real quick, like that pruning would just allow her to escape Sylvie. That's not really... she knows that's not really getting rid of me. That's just hey, Kang will go pop me out of there. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I think is interesting is whenever Loki dies, we don't spend a lot of time on it. When quote unquote dies, because the only time that nobody ever thought he was killed at the end of Thor, but Thor was the longest time that we figured that he was out of commission until the Avengers. But in Dark World, when he dies, one of the next scenes is we know that he's the guard who shows up to check on him. The only time that we've ever spent time away from his death to not immediately reveal that he's not dead was in Infinity War. And I think that was a good way to juxtapose into this, where we see him get pruned in this one. We think he's dead, and then we don't have long to wait before it's revealed that he's not. Yeah, I think that's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, I this isn't a negative, but like I immediately knew Loki wasn't dead. Like once Owen Wilson was pruned, I was shocked, but I knew they weren't killing their main character. As much as I would love for this to become the Sylvie show, I knew they weren't doing it because I've seen trailers I've seen footage from the trailers that we haven't seen yet. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but you can't always trust that.
No, you can't. But like
that's why
they're in New York.
That's why I said earlier that like. Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, obviously, like now we know, but like before we saw the post credits, when the moment was happening, there was a part of me that went, "Oh, what if they just got us again?" The Hulk rushing in Infinity War shot and that kind of thing.
That's what I was talking about. The idea that like the audience you don't want to spend too much time on a fake Loki death because we've seen so many of them. You got to immediately tell the audience, this is fake. There you go. We're not going to wait till the next week. We're going to show you right away. He's not actually dead. This is a tease for the next thing.
Yeah. And man, it ended like the same way that like the shot, because there was like a side by side on Twitter of like his shot in Avengers, like when the Avengers are like looking right at him, and I'm like, there's a lot of those shots in the show of like mirroring other things he's done. I'm like, man.
And when he gets pruned, it's very similar to when Vision is dying in WandaVision.
Yeah, it's good shit. This is a good show, you guys.
Yeah,
I'm very, very, very happy about it.
All right, should we get out of here then?
Let's variant our way out of here. Oh, Ben's not here. I don't know if we said that.
Ben's not here this time. No variant decided to join us.
This is not an audio show, so like they'll know that Ben
No,
is not
I'm just
here.
kidding.
Yeah.
Also, like we're done. I just thought it was a joke. Yeah.
But you can find Ben at BenMagnet27 on all social medias.
I hear he's there sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll do it. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel, and you can get some of the other shows on this channel, such as our Fake Nerds Watch series, where we've done more things. We talked about we talked about Lovecraft Country a lot these past couple of days between our main show and this because of the actress in it. But we did a Fake Nerds Watch for Lovecraft Country. If you want to check out that show, check out our Fake Nerds Watch series. We've got a ton of those up on this channel.
Real quick, could you imagine if like that's the connection? Because like they both worked on Lovecraft Country. That's how like, oh man, like oh, I know a good guy. Let me get him in the show. I'm just saying that'd be great. Reunion.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, of course, you can check out Victor's Book Club, Basement Arcade Pause Menu, which just put out a new episode of E3, and Animation Station is our freshman show. So that's Sparkz' show. I think that's everything on YouTube, and you can also check out our audio feed for Conversation, which is my show where I talk to podcasters, and of course, there's the Mothership Show, the Fake Nerd podcast herself, where you can check out where we talk about news and reviews and book clubs and all the sorts of things. We're a very general show. This week it's up now. We reviewed Luca, the new Disney Pixar original that's on Disney Plus. You can check that out now. This coming week, we're going to be talking about Black Widow. Speaking of the MCU, Black Widow is finally here. It's finally time to go back to the movies to watch the MCU and not
There's going to be so much MCU talk this week because there's Loki, and there's more Loki, and there's Black Widow. Oh, baby.
We love the MCU. We love to be in it. We're happy to be back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that of course, that's all you can find all of us and whatnots. Fake Nerd Podcast on all the social medias. Fake Nerd Guys email at gmail.com. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. As I mentioned, Ben is BenMagnet27 on Instagram and Twitter. Sparkz.
You can find me just riding that Kang train, baby, at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty. All aboard to that conspiracy theory. Absolutely.
And Ryan.
I'm DJ Tony Snark everywhere.
All right, and yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that one. So make sure, again, like this video, subscribe to this channel. Until next week, next time you see us, stay fake nerds.
Stay pruny.